This is Return to the Fold, and I'm Joseph. Today's subject is we're going to talk about miracles and the miracle stories that you read in the Gospels. The church liturgical season just began with Ordinary Time, and in the first week of Ordinary Time, we hear the Gospel of the wedding feast at Cana. This might be a familiar story with you, where it's the famous water into wine miracle, considered Jesus' first public miracle. Again, the story might be familiar, but upon reading it or hearing it, we may think to ourselves, these miracle stories, the supernatural, and we quickly dismiss it as something that really didn't happen or whatever. But I think these readings are so rich and so important that it does bear looking at beyond just a cursory reading. And so in this episode, I really want to focus on how to approach these supernatural miracle stories. How do we read into them, and what value can we get out of them? So on first reading, you might look at a story like the wedding at Cana, and maybe you just read it as if it was just a metaphor or a parable and things. Maybe in this example of the water into wine, we think of, a spiritual fermentation happening. We can see it as Jesus' public ministry brings about a change in our life when we accept it. That's a fine first reading of it and so forth, but we really do believe that, one, that this miracle did happen, and that there was some greater implications too. The reading also itself, isn't just the focus on the water into wine, as impressive as that is, but read the details into this. So read it again a second time, and this time focus especially on the details of the scene, the direct quotes and dialogue that are happening in the scene, and the implications, people's reactions. Focus on those things more. For instance, Mary announcing they are out of wine. Again, it could just be a factual statement, but again, so much richness into what she's saying. Maybe she's pointing out that this generation, this people around me, the world now is spiritually dry. Jesus' response, which we read in English as sort of a harsh response, what concern is this of, to me, woman? Again, would you talk to your mother that way? Again, that's probably more of a English translation issue more than anything. But still, it raises this wonderful, anytime Jesus has this question, you can pull it out by itself and listen to that question that he's asking. What concern is it? If it's really, and oftentimes poses those questions almost rhetorically to say, like, hey, ponder this and think about what the answer is. Do whatever he tells you. Ooh, big quote here from Mary, telling the wait staff or whoever, do whatever he tells you. There is a lot to be unpacked in that little quotation there. Again, we haven't even looked at the water or the wine yet in this situation, kind of the big thing, but still, this is the line that really hits home. In fact, I believe it's Mary's last spoken words in any of the gospel stories. Do whatever he tells you. Mary's role is always one that leads you to Christ. Again, so as you're going through this second reading and you're looking closely at these quotes and unpacking them a lot too, imagine yourself too, if you were at this wedding and the wine ran out, what do you imagine the guests would do? Think of, put yourself into that situation. They would maybe think, oh, party's over, we should leave, and so forth. But again, I think even helping, think of that, putting yourself into that place and reacting is a helpful way of reading these in an intelligent way. If you've heard of Lectio Divina, the divine reading, this is often one of the steps that you'll take where you focus on particular aspects of a scene. Lastly, again, continue your reading and reflection upon this. I think you could go even deeper to some of these. Again, in the last reading, we kind of went through direct quotes and focusing on that aspect. But now you can, any one of these readings, but especially the miracle stories too, connect them to the wider context. The wider context, of course, being things like, how does this connect to the theology of the Old Testament? Is this fulfilling something? In this case, absolutely. This is the long-awaited bridegroom, not the guy getting married in Cana, but Jesus marrying his people. This theme of covenant really shines forth. It's God's marriage to his people. And this is the wedding feast where Jesus is manifesting and making himself known. Now you begin to see why people's reactions are what they are. It says in this gospel story at the end that his disciples, people who were already following him, but they really began to believe when they actually began to see these works taking place, these miracles. The word begins to spread, and other people really begin to believe and follow him as well. This is how his reputation really begins to build, and subsequent stories, we see the crowds amassing and getting bigger and bigger. Really, too, again, you can see here what the meaning and implications are in today's world. And that's also something, and as we continue to contemplate these readings, we begin to understand where this fits into our own life. That this isn't just something that happened in a first century wedding celebration, but it has real implications for your own life today. So continue that personal reflection. So you've read the gospel now a couple of times, and now you can continue to think about, okay, how does this impact me in my daily life? Or what is the impact of my belief? What if something like this is true? Do you continue to try to rationalize it away? Or if you did believe, put yourself into that situation, if you saw it, experienced it, how does that change you? I think a conclusion here, I'll quickly just say that it's easy to dismiss these supernatural occurrences, but miracles do happen every day. The way that God speaks to you and how he manifests himself in sacrament and in his word, in these stories, how perfectly ordered even that the science of the world is. That in itself is a way that God demonstrates his love. Your very life is a miracle in itself. So check out this reading and other readings like it. It's in the Gospel of John. Make a resolution today to, beginning this coming Sunday, to attend Mass. And you'll hear other stories just like this. And with this guide, you can use it as a way to understand and interpret the readings and how they apply to your life. It's the perfect opportunity to return to the fold.